welcome back to another episode of Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man whose favorite underwear brand is Depends, my dad, Tim.
That's not even nice. I mean, the other jokes you make were humorous, funny. That's just cruel.
Oh, that's my favorite one so
I like
far.
your new bumper sticker.
Hey, we ended up going to the Field of Dreams, so I had to...
Let's make no mistake. You drove and forced the kids to go to Field of Dreams.
I accidentally convinced them to go, is what happened. Because there's a toy factory there.
Turtle
we
Toys.
ended up coming back.
Tommy.
It's Tommy now.
Tommy.
And so they had a Tommy toy outlet, and my kids love Tommy toys. And so they were like, yeah, let's go. And we realized when we got there, it had closed out early. Apparently on Saturdays, they close at 2. We came into town on Saturday. And I felt so bad.
No, you didn't.
I really did, actually. I really, really did, because that was definitely something for me.
Well, I haven't been to the Field of Dreams since we went, and that had to be, 20 years ago at least? Maybe even...
In that ballpark, yeah.
I mean, they've got the new MLB field there.
Yeah, I couldn't go and see it. It's under construction, so they wouldn't let us back there. That was super disappointing. But the Field of Dreams is cool. It's very different now. It is definitely very different. It's owned by one family now, which it hadn't been for years. For those of you that don't know,
Right.
That field was owned by 2 separate families. Well, most of the property was on one family's side, and then the corner of it, the left field side of it, was owned by a completely different family.
And that family wanted to plow it under and put their corn back.
They did. It was a fight until the one family came in and finally was able to buy that land from the other family, and now there's a bar there, there's a restaurant there. Chick-fil-A was there for part of it. They had a whole tourist shop,
a whole tourist trap now.
It's a whole tourist trap. You got to donate to go in now. You can't just drive in like we used to,
which is sad because you used to drive in, and as James Earl Jones said, they'll just hand over $20.
Well, and that's the recommended donation,
of course.
Is $20. You don't have to donate anything. You don't. But
how was Mount Rushmore? How was Yellowstone? Crazy Horse?
I can't put into words how beautiful it is. I could show pictures on here all day long, and it wouldn't do it justice. I will tell you, if you have not taken your family out to Yellowstone or Mount Rushmore or anything out west, you need to go do it. And you need to plan for it. It's not very expensive to do. To camp there, if you like tent camping, it's $33 a night to camp in Yellowstone. You can find a KOA at any time near. There's a KOA that we stayed at Palmer Gulch, which is a stone's throw from Mount Rushmore. It is. God's presence is in that land.
Everything I told you it was, because I haven't been out there for years. But it's one of my favorite places on the planet to go.
I had a buffalo come within 5 feet of my car. That was terrifying. We did have somebody do something stupid with an animal when we were there, and got
bear or bison.
Bison got gored by a bison. Tried to pet the bison.
That actually became a viral video while you were gone.
I didn't know what happened. It wasn't in the valley we were in. There's 2 main valleys. There's Hayden Valley and there's Lamar Valley. This happened in Hayden Valley, which we were only at for a little bit. We spent most of our time in Lamar. And you sent me the video. You have no cell phone service there.
None. Which is great.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But I didn't get most of your text messages until we were either near Wi-Fi or we left. And so I didn't get that text message until we left. And I'm like, I know the day this happened.
Well, I'm rooting for the bison in that.
Flipped him 10 feet in the air.
Anybody stupid enough to try to go up to a 2-3 ton animal to pet it deserves whatever they get.
Well, it's funny. You know me, I like to talk to people. And so the Rangers were there, and I'm a very curious person and want to learn as much as I can. So I got talking to a couple different Rangers. And one of the Rangers I asked, because grizzlies kill at least one person a year. Grizzly bears kill at least one person a year in Yellowstone. And I asked the ranger, I said, how many of those deaths are people being stupid around animals? And the answer was all of them. People are trying to get pictures too close to the bear. They're not paying attention to the signs. They're more interested in getting out their phones than their bear spray. It's a whole thing.
if you see, well, you and Grayson, your son, my grandson, told me that you guys saw a giant grizzly bear track.
We did. So we went on a hike. I really wanted to get away from where people were. I'm like, because we hadn't seen a moose or a rubber-nosed swamp donkey, as I now refer to them as. If you didn't know that fun fact, moose were once called rubber-nosed swamp donkeys because they have rubber noses and they eat out of swamps a lot.
Yeah, they spend almost all their life in the water.
Yeah, so they're called rubber-nosed swamp donkeys. And so from now on, moose are rubber-nosed swamp donkeys to me. But we didn't see one, and so there's a creek, Pebble Creek, which is a little bit farther out and more towards the entrance, so not a lot of people really go out there. And so we're out there. I did not realize that you had to go up 1,200 feet of elevation, so we did not make it all the way. I just saw a 2-mile trail to a creek. I'm like, that's nothing. My kids can handle that, no problem at all. It was a big hike, but we ended up going up there, and it had just rained, and so the mud was very, very fresh. And we see this print next to a horse print. And I was like, we're not going to worry about it. And we saw some poop next to some horse poop. I'm like, that's just from a horse. No big deal. Let's keep going. And then the kids get tired on the way back. I take a better look at it. And that was bear poop. That was pretty new. And that was a big old bear paw on the ground that had just been made probably 15 minutes before we got there. And we're like, okay, we gotta go.
The grizzlies don't want to have anything to do with humans. If you just leave them alone, for the most part, they're going to stay far away from you.
Unless they're hungry.
Unless they're hungry, which Yellowstone this time of the year, they shouldn't be.
No.
Plenty of food out there.
That's what they always tell you. Back away slowly unless it's stalking you and then attacks you. But otherwise, if it attacks you, just play dead. But if it stalks you, then attacks you, then you need to fight back.
I'm glad you didn't see one. I did see a moose when I was out there.
I wanted to see a moose, a rubber-nosed swamp donkey.
It is just stunning how large those animals are. I mean, we saw a male and a female.
That's awesome.
The males, the rack on that moose was longer than the car we were in, and this was when 2,000 pounds of the best steel Detroit could put together. Yeah. Our car was long.
Yeah,
it was just. I was stunned at how big those things were.
The moose are more dangerous than the grizzly bears.
They're blind.
They're very nearsighted.
Yeah.
And so if they see you near, especially if you make a quick movement, they're just going to attack. They're going to think you're a wolf or a predator, and they're just going to attack you.
And thank God they've introduced wolves back into Yellowstone.
Which is brand new.
It's turned around the whole ecology of that area.
Yeah. Well, they were having a big problem, believe it or not, with bison. So they actually have to thin the herd of bison every now and then because it was getting too big.
But the wolves took care of a lot of that.
They did. But you can't. I did learn one other thing from a ranger. Shooting an animal, you can bring, I asked them, I'm like, well, what about guns on here to protect yourself? They're like, you can bring one. We're not going to stop you from having one. They don't have metal detectors or anything in there. But it is federal land with federally protected animals. So if you kill an animal, that is a felony to do. That's why they say bring bear spray. You can spray the bear, and it's enough to deter it most of the time so you can get away. But you have to literally prove that the bear was attacking you. It was life or death situation and blah, 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 blah. But if you kill an animal, even if it's attacking you, and you shoot that animal dead,
you're going to be charged.
It's a felony.
First rule of going to Yellowstone or any of those national parks like Glacier or wherever animals are, use the common sense God gave you.
Yeah.
I mean, just stay away from the animals. They're all very wild creatures.
Sometimes we couldn't help it. I mean, like I said, I had a bison 5 feet away from me inside the car because there's things called bison jams if you haven't been there, which the bison just walk in front of your car. And they were big.
They're
big animals. And they got pretty close. I just stayed there. I did have my window rolled down for a reason. My thought is, and you can let me know if you think I'm wrong here, but my thought is if that bison does decide to attack my car, it's going to shatter that window anyway. So I might as well have it down so I don't have shattered glass all over me.
I thought one of the kids did something and you had to have the window down.
No, they rolled down their windows too. They want nothing to do with you. No. I mean, I truly believe a bison 90% of the time is going to leave you alone, but why put yourself in a situation where that 10% could appear? Because trust me, they were protecting the babies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And if there's nothing worse than an angry mother, whether it be bear, bison, whatever. And they aren't buffalo, by the way. They are bison.
Buffalo, they call them buffalo even in Yellowstone.
I understand that, but they're bison.
I did get disappointed by one thing, and then I do want to get into sports because we have a lot to talk about today.
Yes, we do.
But there's a thing called huckleberry out there.
Yeah,
it's a wild berry.
It's a berry. They make jam and stuff out of it.
So of course I'm making tombstone jokes all day.
Huckleberry, not huckleberry.
He says huckleberry.
It's
in the
wrong.
movie.
It's wrong.
I don't care what you say. But it's a special thing. It only grows out there. You can't cultivate it. It's a mixture between a raspberry and blueberry. You can't grow it on your own, or apparently it just tastes like a blueberry. I don't know. That's what I was told. But it's a very hard berry to get a hold of, I guess, because you're fighting with grizzlies over it.
Grizzlies are going to win.
So people don't really go looking for them. But they had a T-shirt, and the T-shirt said, "I'll be your huckleberry." And I thought, this is great. But it was just a bear holding a berry.
Oh.
And so I had to have a long conversation with the people running the shop on why they failed. And then I was politely asked to leave.
Because they didn't have Doc Holliday on that shirt?
They didn't have a cowboy shirt on it. They didn't have Doc Holliday towards any of it. Like, they could have done such an amazing job with that T-shirt, and I had to explain that to them. And I don't think they appreciated it. I was very polite. I was very kind. They didn't give two shits about what I
Probably
had to say.
not.
I think they've heard that several times before, and they're like, great, another dad coming here telling us.
Another idiot who loves Tombstone.
Telling us that Tombstone should be a part of this shirt. Thanks a lot.
Tombstone's 1,000 miles to the south of us.
They don't have huckleberries there.
No, they don't.
But a lot of sports coming up. We have several things to talk about. Big Ten expansion is happening. Jordan Love had an interesting preseason game where I think you and I may be arguing on this one. Rookie starters had a chance, and of course we have to talk again about some big changes in football division, so hang on for that. But before we go anywhere else, we need to talk about this Big Ten expansion. Big news made with Oregon and Washington joining the Big Ten, but that is not the only news that has been coming out about the Big Ten.
Well, and we've talked about this before, that the Big Ten wants to be our thought was that Big Ten wants to be a fully national conference.
Correct.
And if they're going to do that, they've got to go and get
You got to go to the Southeast.
They've got to get to the Florida.
Yep.
Rumors going nuts. Clemson. I was surprised by Florida State because I thought it was going to be Miami. But looks like that's going to happen. Maybe not this year.
I just read a report today. This is Tuesday, August 15th that we're recording this. It's going to come out tomorrow, but we are recording on Tuesday. They have to make the decision by today. They have to announce by today. And from what I'm hearing, they were in long meetings yesterday. They have decided not to hold a vote today. And so at least for the next two seasons, Florida State and Clemson are still going to be in the ACC.
I think 2026 is when all of it's going to happen. And I think at that point, if you get a Clemson, if you get a Miami, if you get a Florida State,
yeah,
okay, Notre Dame, your time is done.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. If you look at the way the Big Ten's been expanding, right? The Big Ten has wanted Notre Dame since they brought in Penn State.
Sure.
Like that was the idea, is we're going to bring in Penn State, then we're going to bring in Notre Dame.
Big Ten has wanted Notre Dame since the 1920s.
100%.
Or whenever it came into existence. They always wanted Notre Dame.
They have. It makes sense. It's a good fit. Notre Dame likes being independent, which I understand as well.
I don't.
For a long time, it made sense. Notre Dame was making more money on their own.
Sure.
Why would they join a conference? That's changed now.
A lot.
You're looking at Big Ten schools with this new TV contract in 29-30. We're going to be talking $100 million per school. Notre Dame currently makes $35 million on their own with the NBC.
Right.
The AD likes being a part of the conversation in all these big meetings. Notre Dame has to be invited.
Look, the Big Ten schools now are making what, $70 million a year?
They will be very shortly. Yes,
very shortly.
It was $40 million recently, but the new TV contract they just signed before the USC UCLA was brought in. I think it's going to be like 70.
You add a Clemson and Miami, Florida State. That's huge, not only for recruiting, but for TV markets. It just fills out the entire country for them.
The Big Ten's not done.
No.
I mean, I think they're done for 2024. I think 2026 is the next target date. And I think that the ACC is vulnerable in this.
Yeah, because really I know there's a $50 million buyout that they think is going to hold these teams to a conference that's going to get hundreds and billions of dollars. The Big Ten doesn't care about $50 million.
Well, listen to this. So as of 2022, the Big Ten by far makes more money than any other conference. They make $40 million more than the SEC in 2022, and that number is going to only get bigger now. But they made $845 million in 2022, almost $1 billion in revenue just by themselves. Paying off $50 million for the Big Ten, whatever, you owe us. Like, it is what it is.
To get Clemson, which I think would be a perfect fit for the Big Ten.
I agree.
And so would Miami and/or Florida State. And then you have to fill it out somehow. And you either go and get like a Virginia or an Oklahoma State.
I'm shocked by Florida State. Absolutely shocked.
As I read more into it, it made more sense. They're a big state school.
They are.
Academics are valued there.
They are.
It fits with the Big Ten, and let's face it.
But the SEC academics is a big deal.
Sure. And where are they going to make more money?
Now? Big Ten. I really thought Florida State was going to go with Florida. I really didn't think. So that shocked me to hear Florida State. Clemson, I also thought was going to look at the SEC, but it doesn't surprise me they're looking at the Big Ten.
I think they'd be far better off, competitive balance-wise, if they're in the Big Ten. The SEC has turned into a Southeast, South Central conference, and that's going to be it. They're still play the best football in the country, but I think that pendulum may start to change.
They have two teams that are playing the best football.
Alabama and Georgia.
Let's make no mistake. The SEC is two teams. Alabama has held up that conference, and Georgia is now starting to take over in that spot. I think Georgia with Kirby Smart there is going to start taking over from Alabama.
And LSU.
LSU had a couple of good years.
They're going to have a great year this year.
Maybe.
I mean, you're looking at it right now. Clemson going into the season is rated number 8, and Florida State is number 9, or flip that, whatever it is. The Big Ten would be getting another 2 top 10 teams.
They would.
And then they can really start breaking things up by division.
Well, let's look at some options for the Big Ten here. Let's say you and I talked about this. Right now, the Big Ten is at 18 teams with Oregon and Washington coming to town, right? So you got to think they're going to want to get to 20, which is 2 more teams. I think they want to get to 24.
I was going to say, I think 24 is the magic number.
You can really separate by divisions at that point. It really sets you apart. And I think what the Big Ten's really trying to do here, if you get to 24 teams, you can run your own conference.
Sure.
You don't need anybody else, especially if those teams include USC, UCLA, Florida State, Clemson,
Ohio State, Michigan,
Oregon, Washington.
Maybe Notre Dame.
If you get Notre Dame especially. I mean, you can really run your own conference, and I think that's what's going to happen. We talked about that a lot last week. But let's look at the 4 teams that could be coming to the Big Ten, and this is assuming the ACC's in trouble, which I really think they are.
I do too.
Especially on the football side.
They're teetering on the brink because they cannot possibly pay what the SEC or the Big Ten can pay.
No.
Not even close.
No, and I just found it. The Big Ten approximately $58.8 million to each of his school.
This year.
In 2022.
Okay.
So last year.
Going to be higher with USC, UCLA.
100%.
Washington and Oregon.
Well, and let's not forget, too, let's talk about the Big Ten versus the SEC, because we're talking about expansion here. Because the SEC brought in Texas and Oklahoma. The reason Texas and Oklahoma went to the SEC is because they let Texas keep their
own network.
Right. Because the SEC doesn't own their own network. I think a lot of people get that confused. People say, well, the SEC has their own SEC network. That's owned by ESPN.
Correct.
ESPN runs that. ESPN owns that. Those are ESPN affiliates. It is a partnership with ESPN. Big Ten owns their own network. That is theirs. That is the Big Ten network owned by the Big Ten.
And that means a lot of extra money that they can bring in.
That means
you're getting cable network.
Yeah, and that means you're getting all that money from that. Plus, you're getting the TV contracts from ESPN, from Fox, from ABC, from NBC if Notre Dame joins. They own it all.
They do. And you've seen the advertising for it. They're going to be playing football, the Big Ten, from 11 a.m. in the morning to midnight East Coast time.
Yeah.
They'll stagger them.
They'll have games on the whole time. But let's take a look at this here. The Pac-12, as of 2024, is going to have 4 teams. They're going to have Cal, Oregon State, Stanford, Washington State.
They're going to merge with the Big 12.
The Big 12 or the Mountain West?
One of the two.
One of the two. Stanford and Cal were talking about going to the ACC. That's no longer happening. That was never going to happen. The travel schedule for Stanford and Cal would have been stupid. There's no reason to do that. You have nothing close. The Big Ten was smart in bringing in Oregon and Washington because it really takes Oregon, Washington, UCLA, and USC will never play Rutgers, Maryland.
They will, but it'll be on a rotating basis, I think, the way that the NFL does it.
Yes.
Like once every 5 years.
Right.
They'll have to go.
It won't be a lot.
No.
They're not going to play them on a regular basis. That travel doesn't make sense. It's not going to happen. But you have Cal, Oregon State, Stanford, Washington State. And then you have the ACC teams that we were discussing before. If you're the Big Ten and your magic number is 24 teams, let's assume Florida State and Clemson are going to the Big Ten. Let's just live under that assumption because it may not happen this year. It's a short notice type of thing. Probably not going to happen right now.
They've been talking about it.
100%. But the vote's not going to happen right now. That's from what we know. There could be a huge announcement tonight.
I was going to say the day is not over yet. Look at when Washington and Oregon was announced.
Yeah, so we're just going to assume Florida State and Clemson are coming to the Big Ten at some point. So we're putting them in, which leaves us with 4 teams to get to 24 teams. Who are the 4 teams you're going after in all of football?
If it's me, okay, so Clemson and Florida State take them to 20. I go and get Miami, Notre Dame if I can get them. If I can't, I go to Virginia. You've got North Carolina, Duke sitting out there. You also have Oklahoma State. If you're going to try to pick off somebody from the Big 12, that would be the team I would try to pick off. Maybe Stanford. You've been in love with Stanford from the jump. It would be an extra team, and then they'd have that full West Coast conference, West Coast division.
If Clemson comes in, it would be the 3rd private school to come into the Big Ten. Because you have Northwestern, which is a private school.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson's a private school. Stanford's a private school.
Miami would be as well.
Miami would be as well if they come in. They're known for big state schools. My guess for where I'd want to go, one big team I'd want, it's not going to happen because they're joining the Big 12 as of 2024, but Utah. I really thought Utah was on the table to come into the Big 10, and it didn't happen.
No, they're Big 12 bound. That's why I didn't include them. I thought they would be a good fit as well because they are that big state school, and they've got a very good football program.
You had Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado. They are all joining the Big 12 as of 2024. They saw the writing on the wall, and they jumped. I really thought Utah stood a chance. That would have been one of my picks. Again, it's not going to happen.
Or
you have Oregon State hanging out there. I don't think that's a school you're going after.
Washington State's not going to happen. Cal wouldn't happen. The only one out there I think could happen would be Stanford. Utah depends on the money. I mean, if they went and who knows what
they'd have to upgrade their facilities quite a bit.
But who knows what the contract with the Big 12 is if they decided if the Big 10 comes knocking, you're listening.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed. I think conversations happened, and they made that decision. I'm trying to think who else we could go for here. You're not going to get anybody from the SEC. If you're going to pick off from the Big 12, I think Oklahoma State is an interesting choice. West Virginia, I think, is an interesting choice that could fit in really well. Iowa State, I've said from the word go, makes sense to me.
I don't see that ever happening.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. If that was going to happen, I think that would have been the expansion when they got Maryland and Rutgers.
I think Virginia was the one that makes the most sense. It's a large state. It's a large state school. They've got an outstanding basketball program already. Football is getting better. I could see that being a fit.
If I'm bringing in 4 schools, you have to look at North Carolina and Duke. Because North Carolina and Duke do bring in money on the basketball side. The football program's getting better. In North Carolina, not so much Duke.
This is not about basketball.
But the basketball teams for North Carolina and Duke do support their football program. They're the only two schools in the country where their basketball team actually supports their football team.
So why would the Big Ten want them for their football programs? This is about football.
Because North Carolina is getting better.
Not that much. I mean, yes, they are getting better, but...
I mean, who do you have out here? Again, we're assuming Florida State and Clemson comes in from the ACC.
That takes you to 20.
You have Boston College, you have Duke, you have Georgia Tech, no. You have Louisville, no. Miami, North Carolina State, no. Pitt, no. Syracuse, no. Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Virginia. Virginia makes really good sense for the Big Ten. Their football program sucks, though.
I know.
They're a bad team.
But they're a big state school that can upgrade. I mean, look at what Maryland's done since they joined the Big Ten.
They were a basketball ad. They've really turned their program around.
They have.
Virginia could do the same thing.
The ugliest helmets.
I love their helmets. I think you're out of your mind. Those are awesome.
They're the state flag.
Yeah.
It's an ugly state flag.
It's a state school.
I get it.
It's not an ugly state flag at all. It's very unique.
With all due respect to Scott Van Pelt, those are ugly helmets.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. You have to ask for comments. Is Maryland have ugly helmets?
Let us know in the comments below. But before I do the like and subscribe sign sort of thing, I want to get back into this because I haven't made my picks yet. Miami makes sense. You bring in Miami. Now, Miami's going to have to change a lot of what they do. One thing they're going to have to do is they're going to have to get their own stadium if they're coming to the Big Ten.
True.
They're not going to be able to play at, what is it even called now? Sun Life?
I don't even know.
Hard Rock. The Dolphin Stadium. I think it's called Hard Rock now.
It's not even close to campus.
No, it's just 45 minutes away. So if Miami's going to come into the Big Ten, they're going to have to build their own stadium on campus. And I don't know if Miami's willing to do that.
They're not, then they're not coming into the Big Ten.
You just can't have one. What is the Big Ten really known for? Cathedral stadiums. I mean, they're big stadiums. You look at Oregon and Washington, they're brought in because they have bigger stadiums. Washington has a 62,000 seat arena. The Oregon has 52,000.
Northwestern is going to have, what did they say?
Northwestern's going down 12,000 seats. They're going to, in their new facility, they're going to have less than 40,000 seats.
Which is insane. I don't get it.
But it's going to be close together. So what they're building is they're going to build something where it's mainly going to be Northwestern fans there, and it's going to be a suffocating stadium.
It's going to be a pit.
Ryan's Field is a suffocating pit. People don't go in there and play well.
Tell me about it. I've watched too many Badger games from there.
Ohio State struggled at Northwestern, not as much as the Badgers because they're a better team, but they go in there and have struggled at times. Tell me I'm wrong.
You have to take the shot.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
No, you're lying. But I just don't think if Miami's not going to build a new football stadium, they're not going to come into the Big Ten.
You're not going to take a USF or a UCF.
No, they're in the Big 12 now. They already left.
Yeah, that's those ships have sailed, but they were rumored.
Notre Dame is the dream school here. Notre Dame is who you want. All of this has been done for Notre Dame.
Yes, they're going to.
Who have you taken away? Who are Notre Dame's biggest rivals? USC, Stanford, Clemson, Michigan,
Miami. Look,
so all of a sudden, your USC is now in the Big Ten. Clemson's talking about coming to the Big Ten. Miami's been saying if Florida State and Clemson go, Miami's going too. So you're taking Miami away now.
And I look at Notre Dame and go, oh, by the way,
you're not
playing any of these anymore.
I mean, you already have USC, which is their biggest rival.
Right. And I wouldn't let them play them.
And as of 2026, I am going to put it out on the table. Either you join this conference or you're not playing any of these. And if I'm the SEC, I'm saying the same thing.
Make no mistake. Notre Dame has been that arrogant East Coast mentality school for decades.
They're not East Coast.
I understand it, but that was the mentality.
Close to the coast.
I know that, but they've had
in the middle of Indiana.
They've had that mentality, is what I'm saying. They're the blue bloods. We're too good to join a conference. Blah 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 blah. Tony Pettit is looking at them. The commissioner of the Big Ten is looking at them and going, "Okay, don't join us. That's fine. But this is the last shot you've got. And oh, by the way, you're not playing any of our teams."
Well, one, they have the power now, and two, I think the Big Ten is getting ready to break off and run their own thing. And I think if you get to those 24 teams, you have the power now to run your own conference without the NCAA, because the NCAA is running amok. I don't think that I know the NIL has gotten away from them.
I still want to use the line from Hocus Pocus when you said amok.
Amok, 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 amok.
Look, I've said for a long time, football is going to have their own thing, and the NCAA is not going to be involved in it anymore.
Well, the Big Ten's moving that direction. And if the Big Ten breaks off, the SEC is going to break off. And if the SEC breaks off, the Big 12 is going to break off. And you're going to leave these smaller conferences as a Mountain West and the ACC, and they're going to be stuck because the ACC doesn't have enough money. The Pac-12 screwed up because they got, you want to talk about arrogance?
Yes.
You want to talk about West Coast dumb? They decided to go to this app, the Silicon Valley solution, thinking, yes, the rest of the world's going to come with this. This makes sense. They're going to download an app, and they realize people across the country aren't going to do that.
And they're certainly not going to do it, and they're not going to pay for it on top of it.
I'm sorry, the most of this country does not know how to set up a Chromecast or a smart TV to stream these type of things. Most people still have cable because it's easier to just turn on a TV and click a button than it is to switch from Netflix, then to Disney, then to this Pac-12 app, and then blah, 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 blah.
If you add all that up, you're paying as much as a cable bill anyways.
I've done the math. If I just go to subscriptions, I might as well just have cable.
Right.
And that's where we're at this point. Because you don't have one subscription network that has everything. You just don't. And you have to pick and choose. And trust me, if it was just me, I just have internet because I don't really watch TV that much. But the kids do. And let me tell you, it is much easier to just turn on Bluey and call it a day when it's on TV, rather than go through all these different apps of things that they like, which I end up doing anyways. And being a father's hard.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
My kids are much better than I was as a kid.
Tell me about it.
Sorry. But if I'm going in, here's my schools. I'm ready to make a pick now.
Okay.
If I'm going in, I'm bringing in Stanford. I still think Stanford is a great fit. I really do. It gets a lot of that West Coast money to come into the school because, like it or not, Stanford brings in a lot of money with it. You bring in Stanford. Stanford owns California the way that Northwestern owns Chicago. Northwestern and Notre Dame own Chicago.
Okay, go on. Who else?
I'm bringing in Notre Dame.
I would too, if they'll come.
If you build it, they will come. If you build this conference, they will come. Because again, you're going to tell them they have nobody else to play. I'm bringing in Miami.
Okay. That's 3.
I'm not bringing in Cal. I'm going through the list here. I'm not bringing in Cal. I'm not bringing in Oregon State. I'm not bringing in Washington State. Those are not choices I'm making.
To me, the school that makes the most sense is Oklahoma State. Because it's that centrally located for playing Nebraska.
Who did you say?
Oklahoma State. But
if I'm going from a team to the Big 12, I'm going to get West Virginia. That's the school I'm going to get. That's the school that fits. It's a big state. It does.
Better than Virginia?
No. That's why my last pick is Virginia. I am going Virginia, Notre Dame, Miami, and Stanford. Those are my teams that I'm taking. Again, we're assuming Clemson and Florida State are already there. So we need to get to 24. I'm taking Miami. I'm taking Notre Dame. I'm taking Virginia. And I'm taking Stanford.
I think I see nothing wrong with those picks. I think that makes sense for the Big Ten. It makes them a national conference. It spreads out the teams as evenly as you're going to get. You don't have the Southwest. You don't have the South Central.
The pick comes between Virginia and North Carolina. But here's the thing. You're not getting North Carolina without getting Duke. It's the USC-UCLA package.
Right.
You're not getting one without the other. And you just don't want Duke unless it's a basketball choice. But again, if you have to pick, that is definitely the lesser of the choices. I would like to take North Carolina over Virginia. I would.
Yes, they've got a better football program. Plus, you get the basketball.
But
it's not happening.
It's not happening without Duke. So you really have to say no to Miami at that point. Now, if Notre Dame says no, I'm bringing in North Carolina, Duke, Miami, and Stanford.
I can see that.
That's who I'm bringing in. I'm saying forget Virginia. It doesn't fit because Duke is very much a small private school. It would by far be the smallest school you have. And you don't know what they're going to be in basketball since Coach K, because they sucked before Coach K, and they haven't done much without Coach K.
They're trying to rebuild it. I will tell you what this has done. It has set the Big Ten commissioner to be the most powerful man in all of college sports.
There's a reason Barry Alvarez is still on that board.
It's on the board. Tony Pettit, and I'm sorry, or Pettetti is, if I'm pronouncing the name wrong.
Probably. You do that a lot.
I do that a lot. I'm sorry. He's a Big Ten commissioner. He's a Big Ten commissioner, and he's got a lot of power.
He has the most power of anybody else.
He's been
right now.
Brilliant in the way he's built out the Big Ten and the network and the brand itself.
Yes.
He's been brilliant at it.
He's had the benefit of his conference is in the heart of the United States.
It is.
Like, he understands that's the problem with the ACC and especially the Pac-12, where they screwed up more than anything, is they're very West Coast, and the West Coast is very different than the rest of the country. And they truly misjudged the rest of the country.
They went West Coast fruit and nuts.
Yeah, West Coast dumb. That's what they did. Their app was West Coast dumb, thinking you know what's better for everybody, and this is people are going to follow because this is what the West Coast does, and you were wrong.
Correct.
Nobody watched your games, and therefore none of your people were on TV. None of your teams, I should say, were on TV, and nobody cared.
And Oregon was leading the pack in seeing that. They were well ahead of the curve. They
have been talking to the Big Ten for years.
They wanted to come a long time ago.
Right.
But
I really think the Oregon is for because USC and UCLA are getting full money immediately. Oregon and Washington are not. They are getting partial payments, and then when the new TV deal comes in 29-30, they'll be full participants where they'll make a lot more money.
Still way more than they would get from the Pac-12.
It is. But that is the Big Ten telling Nike, you don't run this conference.
I think that might be
waiting on Oregon is them telling you don't run this conference.
Correct, because the original two teams were USC and Oregon.
But then USC would not go without UCLA, and they said, we want USC more than you. And then they got Washington together because Washington was also calling the Big Ten, and they said, okay, now you can come along. But that is them saying Nike does not run this conference. But those are my four teams. I think it makes sense if you can dip into the Big 12, which I think the Big 12 is getting pretty solid at this point. I think they are getting untouchable in a lot of ways. Not completely. The Big 10, if they wanted to, could definitely reach their hand in there. I would take West Virginia. They've built a decent football program in the past. They have a good basketball program, even though whatever happened with their coach, I don't know that whole story. You can go after Utah, which to me fits perfectly. I will take away Stanford if you can get Utah.
Yeah, because it's a big state school. It fits with the Big Ten. Because most of the schools in the Big Ten are that big.
And they build a winning program consistently. Now, you may hear, well, they were in the Pac-12. Well, the Pac-12 sported some pretty good teams. Utah beat a very good USC team last year. Utah builds a good program. And if you give Utah, and Salt Lake City is growing at a higher rate than any other city in the United States. That is a very growing
affluent city.
Affluent city. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you so much. This is why I like you. You have a much better vocabulary than I do. It is a very affluent city, and it is growing immensely. And if you give Utah Big Ten money, they're going to draw.
Is Utah's not in Salt Lake City. BYU is.
I just mean in general.
Oh, okay.
As Salt Lake City's growing, a lot of people in Salt Lake City went to Utah. Like, that's the same thing as Northwestern and Notre Dame or Chicago. Stanford is San Francisco. Salt Lake City is Utah graduates. Nashville is Vanderbilt.
Good point. Okay.
So those are my four teams. You let me know what you think in the comments below, and while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it.
So you were gone.
I was gone.
Did you watch the Packers preseason game?
I did. So we were in Nebraska when Friday happened, and I made sure we were in Nebraska. The west side of Nebraska is beautiful.
Yeah, it's because you can see the mountains from there.
Yeah.
3 hours away, but you can see the mountain.
No, on the west side has mountainous areas. The west side does. Closer to Wyoming, it's not really a panhandle. It's the thing that sticks out.
Okay, we're talking 1 square mile of a giant state.
Hey, it still surprised me to see hills in Nebraska, okay? That part right before once you get to Lexington, Nebraska, there's nothing. But before Lexington, Nebraska, there's actually it's a very beautiful area.
I tried to get to Kearney, Nebraska.
We passed Kearney, Nebraska.
You did. Original spelling of our name.
Yeah.
But it's just so long. Damn. Long drive.
It is a very long drive. I zoned out for most of it once we woke up in the morning.
Anyways, you watched the game.
But I was in Nebraska and I watched the game. We were in Lexington and I made sure we got there in time so I could check out the game. Let me tell you, the Packers have a Hall of Fame quarterback on their roster.
Wait a minute. I saw Sean Clifford too. Yes, he had a better view of the field. He made quicker decisions, but he was playing the 2s and 3s. Make no mistake. But we're
going to get to that.
Jordan Love missed some.
Jordan Love, they're still protecting, and I don't understand why. Jordan Love was doing first reads every single time. They didn't let him throw it down the field. If I'm truly believing in Jordan Love and he's my next quarterback, I'm putting him out there and letting him have one throw where he just lays it out on a dime out there. He missed wide open receivers because he's not checking down.
He missed a wide open Luke Musgrave across the middle. That was an easy pass.
It was an easy pass, and he missed it by a lot. And he missed it high. What was Vince Young's biggest issue when he came in? He missed high, and he threw a lot of interceptions because of it. He didn't run. We didn't see him run at all, which is supposed to be a threat of his. I mean, I don't know why you're protecting this guy. I mean, obviously you want him to really show off for Chicago, so we're really not going to know what we have until week 1.
You know, the one word that came to mind with Jordan Love? Average.
Yeah, I think Colin Cowherd said it best when he says he's a game manager, and I think that's what he could be. He didn't make any throws. He didn't really give his receivers a chance to run. Like, the throws were there, but the receivers all had to stop to catch those balls.
And that's a problem.
You look at Justin Fields. People are giving Justin Fields a lot of flack because he went 3 for 3 for 116 yards and a touchdown or something like that. But his through the air, they're like 5-yard passes. I mean, it was the receivers that had a good game, not Justin Fields. But Justin Fields put it in his spot where the receivers had room to run, and they were in stride when they caught that ball. They were perfectly placed balls.
In fairness, Love had one nice pass at the back of the end zone.
Was it? Or was it a good move by the wide receiver to catch a contested ball?
It was a good catch, but it was where he could catch it. I'll give him a little credit for that. I want Jordan Love to be good.
I do too. I want to be a really good or really bad.
And I know there's a tendency for every fan in the country to fall in love with a backup quarterback. We haven't had that as Packer fans for the last 30 years.
I've fallen in love with the backup quarterback, but the response has always been he's going to be really good on another team.
Exactly. Yeah, you're looking at how many backup quarterbacks?
Mark Brunell, Matt Hasselbeck.
There were a ton of them.
I'm trying to think of the other ones. There were Aaron Brooks.
Aaron Brooks
was really good for a lot of years.
He was good with the Saints for a while.
Saints. I always liked Aaron Brooks.
There was a lot of those guys. But I don't see anything in Jordan Love that makes me go, this is our guy.
No, this is a time where Rodgers really popped. You know, it's where it's like, oh, we got somebody here. And he got better as the year went on. Listen, I've been saying Jordan Love is our next Hall of Fame quarterback.
And I've been laughing at you.
And I hope I'm right on that because I'm forced to have a belief here. Otherwise, I'm going in turmoil. But if we're looking at the quarterbacks and how they performed, Sean Clifford looked like the real deal. Let me explain it.
Go ahead.
Because I know you're making fun of me.
Maybe not. Go ahead.
But Jordan Love looked at one receiver and then threw the ball. It was designed that way in a lot of cases. But that was his thing. He looked, he threw it, incomplete or not. It was going to be either thrown away or that was the receiver he's going to go to. He's not really looking at the other receivers. Sean Clifford was checking down. He was going 1, 2, 3, 4 and back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rolling out and then throwing a dime on the run, which I have watched Aaron Rodgers do for several years now. He had command of the field. He was completely in control. Let's not forget, This man wasn't drafted higher because he was a COVID senior.
Correct.
And so he's, I think, 26 years old or something.
25.
Like that. 25. So he's older. But he looked like he was ready to go. He set all the records for Penn State. He completely controlled that Penn State offense for several years.
What I was impressed with, and I don't disagree with anything you said, I think Sean Clifford looked, whatever that it is,
he's got it.
He looked like he had it.
Yeah.
And I was shocked when I first heard that they were cutting Danny Etling, who's been in the program for a long time.
Yes. Was going to be the backup quarterback.
He was.
That's what everybody thought.
He was. I watched that game and I went, that's why they cut him.
Yeah.
It's just, and granted, it was one game, so I'm not getting all carried away. I want to see what he does in the next couple games. But he outplayed Jordan Love by miles. Again, it was against the 2s and 3s.
I don't know what all these people that are saying Jordan Love's going to be the next great quarterback are seeing. I don't know what game they were watching. I didn't watch him check down once.
We saw 10 good plays against Philadelphia with Jordan Love last year, where I thought, okay, he looks like he's in command. I didn't see it when he walked onto the field last Friday, and I don't know what's going to happen this week.
And that's what's changed my opinion, I think, more than anything, is Jordan Love did look in command. He had that swagger, and he came out onto that field Friday, and it's like, where did it go? This is like watching Kansas City again.
It was Sean Clifford looked like, and we'll see how it goes. But if Love went down, I would be excited to see what Clifford can bring to the table.
Yeah.
Just to find out.
I mean, think about it. Rodgers leaves to wear number 8, but leaves us with a number 8 ready to take the reins.
Maybe. I'll tell you who didn't look good. Looked very, very tiny. And that was Bryce Young.
Oh, I don't agree with that at all.
He did not have a good game.
Before we get into that, because we're getting into the rookie starters clearly, let us know what you think about Jordan Love and Sean Clifford in the comments below. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. I think you're out of your mind. I thought that Bryce Young,
huh?
Yeah. I thought he looked good. He looked small.
He looked really small.
He looked small.
He was when the Jets had their first string in, the Jets got to him. And he took some hits.
He did, but that's the offensive line's fault.
True, but that's going to be the offensive line for this year. What have we talked about?
I've said from the word go, I wouldn't have made him my first overall pick. He has the brain of a Hall of Famer, but the size of a corner.
Yeah.
Like, that's really what he's got. I mean, he definitely has the brain of a Hall of Fame quarterback. But he's 185 soaking wet. He put on some mass. He's probably about 195 right now, I would say.
Tiny.
But he's 5'10".
He's very
He made some good throws. He was checking down. That's what I always look for with rookie quarterbacks. I want to see, are you checking down your wide receivers? Are you looking for more than one option? And Bryce Young was looking for more than one option. Now, he may just have been trying to look over his offensive lineman, but he was looking around on that field. He was rolling out. And you have Frank Reich there, who I think can really make a difference for that quarterback.
I was not impressed. Everything I thought he would be, he kind of was. And I think
it was his first game.
He's not gonna make 17 games this season. He's gonna take a shot.
He could. I've said that from before too. I said that when he was drafted. I don't know why you're drafting a 5'10" quarterback. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Look, there better be a lot of rollouts, and we'll see. Anthony Richardson, on the other hand, needs work.
Anthony Richardson's going to be real bad this year.
Real bad.
But he's going to be real good in year 2.
You said it better than I could. You could see what's there and why they drafted him. They're going to live through whatever they have to live through this year. And don't forget, when Peyton Manning got there,
he was really bad.
He was really bad.
Anthony Richardson is going to be really bad this year. Make no mistake. You saw it, but what you did see, that little flick of the wrist pass, in a year he's going to make that throw. But for Indianapolis, you better be prepared to be bad this year. Don't bench him. You got to let him get through it. You have to keep him going. There is so much talent there.
And he looks like he's willing to put in the work for it.
100%.
It's definitely not like a Jamarcus Russell. This kid wants to work and he wants to prove himself.
He does.
So I think he's going to be another in the succession.
Well, that's why he shot up the draft boards, was because of his work ethic. The talent is there, and the work ethic is also there. He's going to be a really good quarterback in this league.
Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, now Anthony Richardson. I think they're set up really well.
He's going to be fun to watch this year. He's definitely somebody to watch out for the Rookie of the Year candidacy, but he's going to be really bad this year. He's going to throw more interceptions than touchdowns this year. He's going to run a lot when he should be staying in the pocket and passing.
That's part of the learning. Andrew Luck,
but he's going to learn, and he's going to end up being a really good quarterback in a year or two.
And C.J. Stroud is going to be David Carr this year. He's going to take a lot of hits.
He shouldn't be starting.
No,
he really shouldn't. He looked so bad, and it wasn't his fault.
He had no time.
It wasn't. He had no time. He has no weapons. It's
not fair to him.
It's not. You're going to ruin him. You're going to do what you did to David Carr.
David Carr should have had a really, really nice career. I think he has more talent than Derek Carr.
100%.
But he just got the crap beat out of him.
And he's going to keep getting the crap beat out of him. He's going to get sacked 70 times this year, the same way David Carr did. You might as well have this as an expansion team. You need to not put... Davis Mills needs to be your starting quarterback this year. You can't do that to a quarterback. You can't put them in a situation where they're going to fail like that. Anthony Richardson has weapons. Jonathan Taylor's back in camp. He won't play.
He'll play by the start of the season. They're going to get it figured out.
They'll get it figured out. He's there, but he's going to be hurt. Like, I'm just saying, he's not going to play. He's going to be a hold-in, which, I mean, that's fine. You got to do what you got to do. But they have a weapon in Jonathan Taylor. They have good wide receivers there. They have a decent offensive line that's built there to protect him. That team's built to give him at least a chance to succeed. Again, he's going to be bad this year.
Right.
But
next year they're going to be really good.
He's not a sacrificial lamb. You're going to have that relation with Pittman at that point. Jonathan Taylor, they're going to re-sign, and he's going to be happy, and you're going to be ready to rock and roll. Because Israel, despite what he's saying now, I do believe is a very good owner. And he has taken care of his players time and time again, and he'll figure this out with Jonathan Taylor.
He's going to have to.
He's the oldest owner. He thinks he has to really stick his neck out, from my opinion, for the owners in this situation. I don't think he's necessarily wrong, right? It's supply and demand. A lot of running backs, but Jonathan Taylor's a special player, and they're going to work it out.
You know who looked really bad last weekend? Trey Lance.
Oh, my. I thought that you were
Trey Lance.
Trey Lance looked like dog shit. I mean, he looked... I mean, if you started him in that game to get to trade him, now, a lot of that wasn't his fault. He had no time. Really? But he made real bad throws.
Real bad throws. Look, Brock Purdy is your starter because he's consistent.
And as long as he's back by week 1.
If not, you've got Sam Darnold there, who has looked perfectly ready to step in.
He did, and I think he can win some games with that team. They really need to sign Nick Bosa. They need to get their heads out of their tails and really make that signing, because that defense looked really weak without him. And you need to sign him so he has a chance to practice. Otherwise, he's gonna get hurt.
But make no mistake, they're going to move away from Trey Lance.
I think Trey Lance is out of the league. I don't know who else would bring him in. I mean, I know we talked about the Bengals bringing him in, but if I'm the Bengals, I don't want him.
Houston?
You might as well let JT Stroud go out there, or CJ Stroud. JT Barrett, CJ Stroud. JT Barrett, CJ Stroud. One more time. JT Barrett, CJ Stroud.
This is your guy.
I love JT Barrett. I love CJ Stroud, and I keep getting them mixed up.
Anyways,
JT Barrett, CJ Stroud.
If I'm grading everybody I saw over the weekend, and I watched a lot of football.
Yeah. Little bored, huh?
Little bored. Jordan Love was at the bottom of the list. Sean Clifford was high. He played outstanding.
I wouldn't put Jordan Love at the bottom of the list. I mean, if we're talking Trey Lance, that touchdown he threw was a missed interception.
Of course it was. Trey Lance was the worst of the week, but then Jordan Love, Bryce Young just doesn't have the time right now, and he is so small. Anthony Richardson, there was just a spark there. I just thought, oh my God.
He's going to be real good.
He's going to be really good. CJ Stroud.
I said from the word go, that was my number 1 overall pick.
You did.
And I think that's proven. Again, he's going to be really bad this year.
Yes. But he's in a division Where this time next year,
give him 8 games. Watch where he'll in 8 games.
By the second half of the season, he's going to look good.
He's going to start to look better, for sure. And next year,
do you see Jordan
he's
Love
going to be really bad this year.
Do you see Jordan Love lasting the full season?
How do we know? We haven't seen him do anything. I don't know what his durability is like. I don't know what he looks like in a game. We're not going to know until Chicago. They clearly showed they're not going to do anything with him on the field. I mean, if their game plan is to do what they did in the first 2 series of week 1, we're in a lot of trouble. And that means he's bad.
I think.
You know who else looked really good this in preseason? Who always looks good in preseason? Derek Carr looked really good for the Saints.
He did. I think he's going to have a nice year with the Saints.
I don't. I think Jameis Winston's your starter at some point.
Maybe.
Because we've seen this from Derek Carr. The problem with Derek Carr is he shows this potential time and time and time again and then chokes when it counts.
I'm going to hold him my prediction that before the season's out, Tom Brady will be playing in LA or in Las Vegas.
You want to see the coldest thing that happened? And I'm talking ice cold.
What?
The Raiders gave away number 4 to their rookie, the kid from Purdue.
Ouch.
That guy owns all your franchise records. He was a good quarterback, great quarterback for you in some situations, a good quarterback in others, and then bad when it counted.
It was hard seeing another Packer wearing 17 because they gave that away too.
Not the same year.
No, it wasn't.
But it's like what they did with Clay Matthews. The year he's gone, they give it to Rashawn Gary, who's starting to live up to it. Don't get me wrong, but you don't do that to somebody. You don't give away number 4 the year after you decide not to move on from him. To me, that's cold.
To me, it doesn't surprise me. The Davis family is hardcore.
Yeah, I get it. But that would have been like getting rid of Stabler's number. Just giving it away the year after he's gone. You wait a year.
At least.
17 wasn't given away that same year.
No.
Now somebody has it, but he's been gone for a year.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. The AFC North is going to be outstanding. I mean, assuming Burrow comes back.
He's going to be out the first 5 or 6 weeks.
At least. I think that injury is worse than people think.
It's an ACL injury. They're saying calf sprain. It's 100% ACL injury.
It's down in that area.
And it might be the lower calf.
Kenny Pickett look good?
Kenny Pickett's going to be real good this year. He's got those tiny whopper hands, but he's able to grip the ball. And he's got some really good receivers and weapons around him. Najee Harris is really good as well.
You've got Baltimore in that division. They are always good.
Watch Lamar Jackson light it up this year. I'm excited to see Lamar Jackson this year. They're going to start throwing the ball more. I mean, he's just as talented as any of them out there. He needs to stop running as much. He's getting older. Can't let him get hurt like that.
He's got to turn into Michael Vick.
He's got to do what Michael Vick did.
He's got to become a pocket passer.
And he's got the potential to do it. I've said for a long time, Lamar Jackson reminds me of Michael Vick. And it's the best compliment I can ever give you because Michael Vick was the most electric player on the field. And if the prison time doesn't happen, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yes.
Lamar Jackson has a chance to do that, but he really has to show that this year. And they've given him some weapons with Odell Beckham being there.
It's going to be fun to watch.
It is. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Who do you think is going to be, who impressed you the most? I'm obviously just getting back from vacation. Who's going to impress you the most when it comes to NFL quarterbacks? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy the show as much as we enjoy making it. Another big conversation I've been hearing lately is people saying the NFC North is going to be better than the AFC North. Now, the AFC North has Baltimore, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Okay.
NFC North is Vikings, Lions, Bears, Packers.
That's a sucker bet of all sucker bets. It's not even close.
Now, we said last year the NFC East was going to be the worst division. You, on recorded record, bashed them.
And rightly so.
And they ended up being the best division in the NFC.
Flukes happen. That was a fluke, with the exception of Philadelphia.
Washington could be really good this year.
Or they could be really bad.
Yeah, I mean, both could happen.
I've got my final thought and final word. You just reminded me of it.
We're not there yet.
I know.
But the NFC North, the Vikings are going to be really good this year. Kirk Cousins is going to have an MVP season. I still believe that. I think he's going to have an MVP season this year.
The Lions are winning the division.
The Lions should have a really good team, but they're the Lions.
They're going to have a great season. They're going to
They're still a team that hasn't won a playoff game since, what, 92?
They will this year. They're going to be in the playoffs. I believe in you, Detroit.
Be in the playoffs and winning a playoff game are two very different things.
Let's get there first. Then they can worry about winning.
The Lions should be good. They're pretty stacked right now. The Bears should be better, but again, it's a team that's going to be better from a 4-win season.
And the Packers, you have no idea because they're so young.
No clue what the Packers are going to be.
I mean, they have gotten rid of, if you're over 30 in Green Bay, you don't have a spot on the team.
No, it is the youngest team in the NFL by far.
Maybe ever.
The wide receiver is the most inexperienced wide receiver group that any NFL team has had since the merger.
I just don't understand it. Never will. How you don't keep somebody to serve as a mentor to these guys.
I mean, I hope the Packers are good, but hope doesn't.
Hope is not a plan.
The Confederacy had hope. They still lost the Civil War.
They did.
I mean, hope is not something to build a team around, and that just seems like what the Packers are doing right now is building around hope. The Bears have really built a good roster around Justin Fields.
But they still aren't going to be in the playoffs.
I think they're going to be a better team this year, but again, better from a 4-win season.
This is a two-team division, Detroit and Minnesota.
Where the AFC North, you have 4 teams that could win the division. Now, I don't think Cleveland's going to be any good. I think Deshaun Watson is going to be exactly what it was last year.
Oh, he better be better than that, or it's going to be the biggest waste of money in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, it's Cleveland.
Yeah, it's true. Who are you picking to win that? I mean, assume Joe Burrow plays half the year.
If they can hold ship for half the year, which I think is possible because they have a good roster, I do think it's Cleveland. If not, I think it's Baltimore.
You mean Cincinnati?
Cincinnati. I'm sorry. I think it's Cincinnati.
I think Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh's right there, too. It's hard to pick. It all depends on Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett and T.J. Watt coming back.
T.J. Watt coming back.
Anchor that defense.
But Lamar Jackson's going to have a hell of a year.
He will. I hope. It's just a fun division to watch, and it's certainly top to bottom.
There are definitely 2 divisions that anything could happen. All the teams in the NFC North could be good. They really could. Most of them could be bad. You have no idea. The AFC North could be the same. You really don't know what Lamar Jackson you're going to get. You don't know if Joe Burrow is going to be healthy. You don't know what Kenny Pickett's truly going to turn into. You don't know what you're getting with Deshaun Watson. You still don't know what you're getting with Deshaun Watson. Anything could happen in that division. The NFC North, Kirk Cousins, I really think he's going to have an MVP season, but that team could start to go backwards. I don't think they will with the coach they have. The Lions are the Lions.
The Lions are the division
They're
winners.
the Lions.
I know, but they've got the coolest helmets.
I agree. And I don't agree with that, but I like the Lions.
I love their alternate.
The alternate one's cool.
Yeah.
It's not the best in all of football.
Lion roar.
I'm going to pretend you didn't just do that.
Look,
what was I talking about?
I don't know.
The Lions are still the Lions. The Bears are still the Bears. And the Packers, you really don't know what you have. So these could both be the best divisions of football, or they could be the worst divisions of football.
For the first time in 30 years, I'm feeling like I'm back in 1975.
You shut your mouth. I haven't experienced this before as a football fan. I really haven't.
Welcome to my night.
I went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, which was a 6-10 year, and then a Super Bowl, and then greatness for the rest of it. I don't know what we have here. And I knew what we had in Aaron Rodgers. I knew he was going to be good. I didn't know what he was going to be.
Hall of Fame good?
Hall of Fame good. Maybe better than Brett Favre good.
Maybe the best of all time.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know we were going to get that. But I had no doubt that Aaron Rodgers was going to be a good quarterback in this league. Jordan Love, again, there's what I saw in Philadelphia, which led me to think, oh, we got a guy. And then there's what I saw in week 1 of the preseason, which is this guy doesn't know what the hell's going on.
We're going to know within the first 2 weeks of the regular season.
We'll know week 1.
I think so.
I mean, we'll know week 1.
We'll know when they play the Bears.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. But I think you and I have had a very fun show, but you can never have a conversation with your father. I am clearly still getting back into this. I apologize. You cannot have a conversation with your father without your father getting the last word, so it is all you.
So the Native Americans in the Washington, D.C. area have written a letter to the new owners of the Washington football team, demanding, actually, that they change the name back to the Redskins and bring back the old logo so that they're honoring the Native Americans that lived in that area. I salute them for doing this. It's the right thing to do. But those that don't know, the Redskins was never a derogatory term. It got turned derogatory by the Westerns. It actually was what the Native Americans called themselves. They put clay on their bodies to ward off mosquitoes. That's how they got red skin.
In the sun.
In the sun, obviously. The logo was designed by a Native American to honor Native Americans. And the best line of that whole letter that was written said, if you're going to continue to whitewash and to erase the history, pretty soon no one's going to know that Native Americans were ever in this country. And that's exactly right. That name, that logo honors Native Americans. And it should be brought back and restored to Washington Redskins. NFL, if you're listening, stay out of this. Let the tribes in the area work with the ownership to come up with a name that they want. And if they choose the Redskins, so be it. That's what it is. But bring back that logo that was designed by a Native American.
And the owner has already come out and said that the NFL will never allow it. The new owner has already come out and said that.
And he's gutless. He's hiding behind the NFL.
I don't think he is.
Stand up to him. Stand up to Roger Goodell and say this is the right thing to do.
Listen, I agree with you. I don't think the Redskins was ever an offensive term. I never thought of it that way. And clearly the Native American tribes in D.C. have never thought of it that way. There's a lot of pride behind the name Redskins for the Native American community and for that football team that was there for so long.
And if you don't want to use the term Redskins anymore,
go back to the Washington football team.
Or work with the Native Americans and pick a name that represents the tribes that are, or the nations that are in that area.
Just go back to the Washington football team and bring back the logo.
I'd be good with that too.
That's the answer. Go back to the Washington football team. It was a great name. Or Washington Football, DC Football Club, which I've heard, which is also a great name, DCFC, and go back to the logo.
The logo needs
designed by the Native American. The most important thing that the Washington football team needs to do is bring back that logo.
Absolutely. Because it honors Native Americans. There was nothing offensive about it.
I agree. I think it's a great last word. I hope it gets a lot of traction on here because I think that is a very important thing that needs to happen. But again, as always, let us know what you think in the comments below. I promise by next week I'll be able to speak for our next show. Thank you so much as always for watching Sports Talk with Dad. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.